Hello and welcome back to the Movie Memo Recaps. Today we are going to recap a 2017 movie titled Hunting Emma. Please be advised that there will be spoilers ahead. In the opening scene, we are introduced to Emma, a compassionate children's teacher and pacifist. She is on her last day of school before vacation, but because of a conflict with her boyfriend, she decides to spend the vacation with her father. Later, she passes by the receptionist, who hands her a backpack containing camping supplies left behind by her cousin. The next scene shows a criminal crew moving boxes into a van. The crew is tasked with delivering illegal substances, and the mastermind, Bossman, gives them instructions to prepare and depart. Emma drives her car to her father's property. Emma calls her father and asks him to set a timer to measure the travel time, as her father is very protective of her. She receives a message from her boyfriend and appears distraught. She gets out of her car to respond. It turns out that her disagreement with him stemmed from a fight he got into. He assaulted another individual, and she is now furious with him because she is a peacemaker. Her partner justifies his actions by claiming he was defending himself, but Emma prefers a kinder, non-violent boyfriend. She goes back in the car. Later, an on-duty police officer stops the gang on the road. The police officer approaches the van and asks for Pete's documents, the gang's newest member. Pete is extremely concerned and finds it difficult to conceal his feelings. The police officer senses a problem and asks what's in the back of the car. The boss says that they are relocating and that the van is full of tools and other goods, but the officer becomes irritated. The group's three henchmen approach and contact the policeman, claiming they need directions. The cop orders them to wait. However, the men get out of the car and approach the policeman, realizing they can't divert his attention away from the van. He senses danger and instructs them to get back into the car. However, they draw their guns and capture the cop. Boss, a gang member, knocks the police officer on the head with his gun, knocking him unconscious. They decide to carry him to a concealed location. Emma is currently heading in the same direction, but her car is overheating due to a radiator problem. No coverage appears when she tries to call for help on the phone. The group approaches a spot not far from the road and surrounds the police officer, who is wearing a bag over his head. Because he has seen their faces, they are unable to release him, and they decide to kill him. However, Bossman prefers to delegate the task to Pete, as he is the one who has put them in this uncomfortable situation. First, Bossman wants to see if Pete knows how to fire, but he discovers that the rookie has never used a gun before. He tells him to take 2 practice shots at some rocks up ahead. Emma is standing on the nearby road when she hears the bullets. Emma leaves her car on the road and heads in the direction of the shots. She witnesses the gang surrounding the police officer. Pete then shoots at the police officer's shoulder, shocking her. She drops the bottle in her hand, catching the goon's attention. She begins running, and the thugs instantly pursue her. They quickly catch up with her and return her to the rest of the party. The group knows they must kill her, but Bola wants to use her first. Bossman agrees to the notion, but only on the condition that whoever exploits her is responsible for her death. Before agreeing, Bola looks at her for a while. The group is unaware that the policeman is still alive. In fact, crawl carefully towards the police car. Emma notices him, and he instructs her to be silent. As the gang chooses who will be the first to utilize Emma, the police officer arrives at the car. Bola takes Emma away and handcuffs her, but the officer flees before he can take action. The criminals start pursuing him while shooting at the car. Bossman gets a rifle from the car and places himself on the hill, finally shooting the cop in the head. Meanwhile, Emma attempts furiously to reach the belt containing the handcuff key. She finally gets to it and breaks free. As she runs, she recalls her father's childhood instruction on self-defense. She crosses a fence and returns to her car, where she retrieves a tiny bag and the large red backpack that her cousin had left for her at the front desk. Meanwhile, Bola realizes Emma has run away. Bossman becomes enraged, fearing that they would perish if they did not kill the girl. He instructs them to travel together to search for her, using radios to communicate. Thus, they set out to find Emma. Meanwhile, her father is concerned because she should have already come or contacted him. He looks down the road, waiting for her, but no one appears. He calls her but only gets the answering machine, which makes him even more concerned. Emma is currently hiding in a state of terror. She starts crying, scared of what could happen to her. Soon, she calms herself and begins rummaging through her backpack for something useful in this scenario. The goons find Emma's car and search through her belongings. They find her papers and learn her personal information. They quickly determine which direction her traces are traveling and tell Bossman. Emma recognizes as she walks that she is leaving a trail that the group can follow. She spots a hill in the distance and decides to forge more tracks in other directions. She then proceeds in a specific direction. Meanwhile, a neighboring farmer notices Emma's car. He checks the car and finds Emma's papers, then calls her name many times but receives no response. It turns out that the farmer is good friends with Emma's father. When he notices no one nearby, he moves away to acquire a signal and calls Emma's father. When the man gets the news, he quickly goes out to find the farmer. The thugs arrive at the location where Emma left the most traces. Pluto detects 3 different directions and decides to split out into groups of 2 to find her. When someone finds traces of her, they should promptly alert the others via radio. Emma discovers some drinking water and is finally able to adequately hydrate herself. Soon after, Bola and another gang member see Emma in the distance. But, before notifying the others, Bola has other plans for Emma, including continuing to abuse her. Although the other guy is apprehensive, he listens to Bola and refrains from informing others. Bola approaches Emma, aims his gun at her, and instructs her to deliver the bottle to him. After drinking some water, he approaches her and begins to touch her. The girl warns him to move away, but she takes the knife and repeatedly stabs him in the stomach. She knows her father was correct about the violence. Meanwhile, Emma's father arrives, and upon examining the tracks, he deduces that she has escaped and 6 men are chasing her. He tells the farmer that he has been training her since she was a youngster, but when she killed an animal, she recognized her error. Emma has always sought to avoid violence. The other gang member goes to check on her and discovers Bola is no longer with her. He immediately warns the others, claiming that Bola had captured Emma but made a mistake and died. Emma overhears their entire conversation on Bola's radio and rushes away. One of the thugs starts pursuing her. She becomes enraged and notifies the others of Bola's death. Over the radio, she tells them she called the police and that they are 2 hours from arriving, so they should leave immediately. Nonetheless, the gang does not intend to leave her alive, and the girl challenges them to apprehend her. One of the gang members continues to follow her route until she tosses a heavy stone at his head. She goes to the ground, believing him to be dead, but just as she is about to approach him, he grabs her leg and starts choking her. She fights and grabs the gun next to her and shoots him. The others hear gunfire over the radio and wonder what occurred. She responds that she murdered the second one, with only 4 more to go. The goons become sick as a result of drinking tainted water. Nevertheless, Bossman advises them to put their pain behind them and go on. Later, as they continue, they see Emma in the distance, and Bossman shoots her with his rifle. As she appears to have fallen, they investigate to determine her fate. They discover she is still alive and observe her rushing towards abandoned buildings. Bossman shoots her again, but misses. He tells the others to kill her while he covers them. The rest of the gang moves cautiously towards the abandoned property. They decide to part ways because they don't know exactly where she went. Emma sees a sharp piece of iron and has an idea. When one of the guys enters, Emma catches him off guard and uses the iron to kill him. Bossman notices Pete, who is not actively searching for Emma, and warns him that he will be left here if he does not find work. Baz enters the residence to search for the girl. Pete reaches out to a friend he believes should be inside the abandoned shed, but when he doesn't respond, he ventures inside, only to find Emma waiting for him. She immediately disarms him and places the knife at his throat. Pete declares he is a pacifist and apologizes. He begs her to let him live, and she softens and lets go. When he gets outside, Pete begins shrieking that she is in the shed. She immediately throws a knife at his back, before he gets time to warn the others. Bossman becomes anxious when he calls the others and receives no response, so he joins them. Baz hears Emma enter the house and tackles her. She employs a psychological strategy and confronts the perpetrator, claiming that he would be terrified to fight a lady. He drops his gun and says he'll teach her how to behave in the kitchen. They engage in hand-to-hand battle, but while he is weak and unwell from the tainted water, she feels fine. Baz pushes her, so she grabs an iron and repeatedly beats the thug. She exits the house and confronts the gang's final member, Bossman. She claims all she needs to do now is kill him, but he underestimates her and suggests they play a game, a gun duel. Emma, armed with 2 guns, jumps to her side and shoots him. Elsewhere, we see her father, who is already at home, sitting in a chair, watching the trail, waiting for his daughter to arrive. He becomes distraught and begins to cry, possibly because he believes he will never see her again. His expression changes abruptly when he notices someone in the distance. Using his strategy, Emma managed to survive, but she did receive a shot to the shoulder, fortunately not fatal. She staggers toward her father, they hug, and we see Emma in the hospital. She has learned a new lesson about violence and defense, and she decides to forgive her partner and reconcile with him. Thanks for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more of these recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.